Chapter 26, Second Message. It was while on the dark side of the moon when our craft entered its orbit. We would orbit twice, and when we came across the lit side the second time, we would then hit enter for the second command for the course for Earth at this point. We recorded all there was to see below us, behind us as we went for the proof of our accomplishments. The cameras would turn in the direction of travel towards home, so all could see that we really did this. It would be undeniable proof of this technology to make our point like originally planned. All of this relied upon the fact that the crew would be there to respond to the plan that had been in place years ago in the past. That first message was to the crew to signal them. The signal of our accomplishment was to be received by them first on a chosen secured frequency. Then they would set it all up to televise it through the media for the whole world to see. If they were still there and received the first signal, we should hear from our friends within seconds. We waited, and there was nothing, only what we had heard earlier. So the next message was sent to raise the crew specifically on an emergency frequency from our fail-safe mode, and still there was no response. We both thought, what the hell? As we rounded the moon, our cameras turned toward home, and she had been too busy till now to notice, and it was then that Amy saw what I had seen, and it was the most horrific sight one could have imagined. The Earth was covered in ice and probably looked like what it must have looked like during the Ice Age. The only thing Amy could say with a stunned look on her face was, "Oh my God, they finally done it. What the hell, how could they have done this?" My suspicion when I saw the Earth earlier was verified undeniably now, and so now Amy knew it too. There was a small band of unfrozen land around the equator. It extended from part of the northern part of South American continent, the southern part of North America. It was the same with Africa and Asia, along with very little left to Europe. It wasn't quite the snowball Earth, but it was a glacial ice age that we viewed. It was very disturbing. Amy soon spoke up. "Explain this to me. How did this happen? I was expecting higher water levels, but not this." "It's simple," I said. "History and science states that if you melt all the frozen fresh water that's trapped as ice, it all eventually flows into the ocean. Then it stops the currents, the ocean's currents. Rivers stop circulating heat to the colder regions, and the Earth starts to fix itself by refreezing the ice, which occurs from evaporation, and then falling back as rain or snow, lots of snow. Some have postulated that it would take years to do this, and some say it would not take long at all. They pointed to the flash-frozen prehistoric mammals found in Siberia, and that happened probably when the Earth's magnetic field flipped in the past. So, if they burned off the ozone and then filled the atmosphere with CO2, which holds heat in, then it wouldn't take long for this to happen, because if lots of radiation, ultraviolet, is trapped, then moisture would rise up into the atmosphere quickly, changing the weather because of the melting ice. Then it falls as rain first, mostly because there is no heat distribution from the ocean. Salt is what drives the currents also, and if they become diluted, the currents stop. Too much fresh water and they stop. Then the tipping point into an ice age happens very quickly. On a chart, it's a steep drop-off as demonstrated from the past. It happens rather quickly, and Earth has done it many times in the past. They know this. It is a slow process for the currents to start again. All the ice and snow reflects the heat, and it is a runaway process. This could take thousands of years unless there is a major event to warm the Earth up quickly, such as a volcanic event on a grand scale, like a supervolcano eruption or a giant tear in the ocean's rifts, or an impact event, either a comet of sizable weight or an asteroid impact. That theory is what was thought to have ended the last ice age so quickly. That's the best I can explain it. And all the people, what happened to them? She asked. Then her voice changed into a sobbing reflection of what was to come. She was starting to lose it at this point, and it was hard for me now also, and I had a hard time holding back my emotions as the reality of this all sank in. I held my arms out to bring her in close now. "I don't know yet," I said, which was all I could think of saying. She came in close, wrapped her arms around me. I couldn't put up a wall, and she knew that, so I continued to speak. What I think happened, the flooding at first maybe killed millions if it was fast, but the freezing would have killed billions, and they now would be killing each other for the last of the precious resources to stay alive, if there was anybody left. The people still alive would be alive because they happen to be in the right place in the world at the right time. And the chatter we hear is clear, and it's probably from gangs that have power to take from others. That's what their communication sounds like. Listen to it. We had it on the speakers. They were the lucky ones to survive, or were they? We could now understand what they were saying. Our reception had improved. There were tears in her eyes now. "We'll know more soon enough," I said, "because we have to see what's left of the world. We are in the same position they are in, and we'll need to resupply our food stocks and water at this point, and whatever else we can scavenge." In my mind, I thought there were no other choices at this point. She read me and understood why no one had answered our transmissions. Plus, we had to have closure of some kind. We needed to save whatever we could for our history, such as books or recordings, and if possibly, maybe our family and crew members, if still alive. As I held her in my arms, she was now in full-blown tears, and I was pretty close also, but trying not to show it. And at the same time, we both were in a realization that all our friends, relatives were now probably gone. I had to bring us out of this depressive state, and after a few minutes had passed, I started to talk again as I regained my composure. I contemplated all of our options because we were too late. It was all about us now and our survival, if nothing else, and what we could bring back with us. That was the most important thing, because there was no way or reason to stay here and suffer. I grabbed her by both arms and forced her back and said, "All right, my big girl, we have to get our shit together and figure out what's going on down there. We're not in danger yet. We still have a few meals left and we have the power with our technology to go and do whatever we want to do. Remember, we can go back to that peaceful planet and leave this one when we want to. We need to know who's in control and what we're about to face. We need to know what happened here." You're right, she stated. "So what's the plan?" "Good girl. First, try to figure out what that chatter is about, and as soon as you can, and from my viewpoint, that beacon is something that is there because they want us to know it's there. Think about it. We just have to find out who those people are and how they are still there. Where is that beacon exactly? So, we have to figure out where it's coming from. Can you get me a fix on it?" "Sure. It'll take some time, but yes, I can. It may be hostile to us." "True, but it may be friendly also. Just might be important and from our crew, and all I know is we have to find out what happened to them if we can." She was back now, firm and confident. I think talking about where we could go definitely helped. "I see what you're getting at. With our technology, whatever technology is left here can't really touch us, but they could interpret us as a threat, probably an alien threat, and we don't really know their capabilities." "Exactly. They are probably experiencing some kind of post-governmental control that resembles martial law or worse." I then added, "Just think of all the post-apocalyptic science fiction stories ever written. We don't want to give ourselves away inadvertently, so we have to be really careful. We can't get caught on the ground, off guard, or in the air, and more so now because of all that has ever been written about this kind of craft. If it were to be captured, the power it represents could be held over the people that survive for total control, if that's what's going on. If they understand what it is that we possess, and once taken from us, would give those in power more control over the weak and helpless, or if just taken by scavengers to escape a bad situation, would not go well for us at all at that point. So we can't get caught no matter what. I know that it is presumption of what we face unknowingly, but we have to be one step ahead of whatever it is that we're about to face. Can't we just leave right now? I'm reading an overwhelming sense of doom. I'm scared." Amy was starting to get some vibes. I had to think of something. "We could," I answered, "but what about our friends and family? And remember, this makes sense now. Remember, we are destined to save the few, not the whole planet. We are supposed to be here now. Besides, we need to know for sure what happened and what happened to our friends and relatives. If there is a chance of them still being here, we could figure out how to save them. Plus, there are many things I would like to gather to take back for many reasons now. We have to learn what it is we face now and possibly later." She then got it. It's better to know now and face it, to be prepared. "Yes, my love, we need to know. The beacon is in Florida. That's where it's coming from. When we get close enough, try your mental abilities and see what you come up with while I get us in orbit. Watch the radar, because as soon as we're over Florida again, I'm going on manual override to take us in for a closer look. I doubt there's anybody there watching the skies now. we'd come in the middle of the Gulf and cruise over. Florida was now larger because the ocean levels had dropped, and much of the coastlines we could see had changed. There was a major crustal rebound and subsidence, and the continental shelves that were covered with water were now exposed in most places, which changed the topography somewhat. Before this glaciation, at a time when all the ice caps and glaciers completely melted, Florida must have been halfway underwater, along with Miami, which is now far above and away from any water. The difference was obvious even from orbit. These were just some of the changes we faced, as we would experience the world now with shock and awe, and very soon fright. Mike, I got the coordinates for the beacon. You'll never believe it. It's located near Grant, from what I can tell about the topography of where the Cape used to be. Well, that's got to be the boys then. I know what the chatter is all about too, or most of it. I asked, really, what is it? If it is what I think it is, it's a rogue group of people that have some equipment and are on the hunt looking for provisions, and they seem to be in control of a limited populace. What way, I asked. I'm not sure yet, but from what I gather, they're not afraid of taking and killing if necessary. How many do you think there are? Well, there seems to be small pockets of them either working together or against each other. They take from each other, and they have some impressive firepower. How impressive, I asked. Well, nothing really big, some tanks, maybe missiles, but nothing in the air, and plenty of small arms and vehicles. Okay, hold on a minute. I turned and started up the program that would get us in a geosynchronous orbit. Then later, we could go to manual override. Then just drop in and fly down. No heat, no fuss, no muss. What else, baby? This is the scary part. I can read some of them. When it started to flood, then freeze, there were sites that were compromised due to the changes in weather. These were some of the biological warfare labs, and there were several nuclear power plants that melted down outside, and some very near cities. These cities are now under a mile or more of thick ice sheet the further north you go. There was also a small nuclear war event that kicked this off. So under the ice, how many radioactive sites are there? She simply stated, quite a few around the world. Do they know how many? No. One person I read hasn't any real numbers in his head, but they all know they were progressing in shutting many of the nuclear sites down, but they didn't get to all of them when the war started. Something like 6 melted down before they could get to them in the U.S., and apparently the planet froze very quickly, which caused chaos. Martial law was declared, and that's about all I get, except for that they are very afraid of the people and the animals that have been exposed to the biological viruses that were released, and they shoot certain people on sight because of their aggressive nature. They seem to think that they are controlled, but they have no knowledge of what they're doing. What are you saying, like zombies? Something like that. There's another threat that's out there as well. Not like what we've seen in the movies, but very similar. More like genetically engineered flesh robots. All I could say for a moment was, damn. Are these rogues the same people sending the signal? I can't read any more than that, except where there is a power that rules here that these outlaws are afraid of, and these aren't the ones with the massive weapons. But there's somebody that has weapons that are capable. Okay, Florida first, that's where we came from. Let's see if the shop is still there and if the crew is still there. We'll come in over Miami and fly north to Grant. Next, Chapter 27, Home.